Welcome to the Activity Call Live. Now let's hear it for our special guest host, Alex Abuyuan.
All right. Lions Nation, how y'all doing out there? My name's Alex Abuyuan. Been in the business since the beginning of time. Man, I'm so jacked up. Thank you, Andy Albright and Jane Albright, for allowing me to be on this call and host some awesome winners that I'm very excited to introduce to you. Our theme today is how to stay focused in spite of life's difficulties. You know, we all got our crosses to bear, and we're going to go through some stories of people that are just amazing in what they were able to do to get through situations and stay focused and stay on track and, you know, deal with it, but also continue living their lives and accomplishing and being what God wanted them to be. So the first guest that we have is my lovely and beautiful bride, Jenny Aven, and I want to, interview her. This is a really kind of a unique opportunity to do that. So, wow, there she is, man. We obviously aren't in the same room, but man, you're looking awesome, sweetie.
Ah, thank you, honey.
It looked like you just got out of bed like 3 hours ago, got yourself all gutsied up and stuff, so I feel quite honored. Anyway,
maybe 30 minutes, but thank you.
Anyway, well, so I want you to go over how did you find out about your medical situation?
Well, in December 2018, which, I mean, that sounds like a really long time ago now. And in some ways, it seems like a long time ago. And other ways, it seems like it was, just a short time ago. But December 2018, I went for a routine mammogram and found out very quickly, within the next couple of days, I got a phone call telling me, oh, yeah, it's probably cancer.
Over the phone, right?
Yeah, over the phone. She said, yeah, we think it's cancer. Biopsies and everything did confirm that it was breast cancer. We were able to quickly get a spot for surgery in December of 2019, January of 2019. So we did miss a function. The surgery was Friday of NatCon that year. So
let me interject. I'm going to interject one thing about that. I was texting Jane, and I said, Jane, there's maybe a way, and to make the function, and she stomped me. Says, you are not going to try to figure out a way to come to the event. So, of course, Mama Jane has all the wisdom in the world. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, and Jane and Andy were a huge support. I mean, we kind of kept things a little quiet at the outset, but Jane and Andy were on our short and quick list. That we did talk to, and Jane having had cancer in her history as well. She was just a huge support and a huge comfort. Somebody that I could really rely on to whine to, or to just get some encouragement from. So eternally grateful to both of them, but especially Jane in that situation. But anyway, so I did have a bilateral mastectomy in January of 2019. We were so fortunate that our oldest daughter, Zoe, was able to just drop everything. She was living in New York City at the time. She dropped everything and came home. And because she was able to come home and kind of be my nursemaid, do all the things that I needed help with, because there was a lot of stuff that I couldn't do, that allowed that allowed Alex to keep doing what he needed to do to keep our business moving forward, so we didn't just, drop everything. He was still able to, maybe not be 100% focused, because he was at every doctor's appointment. He was at, everything for, for my treatment. But she was able to come home and be a help. So after surgery, then I had 6 rounds of chemotherapy, and I did 1 year of Herceptin infusions. And then I got to heal for a little while before I had reconstruction surgery in November of 2019. So that was another big surgery. So I think it was more important that Alex was able to stay focused on our business. But what I did find is that it was helpful for me to have something to focus on other than just like focusing on myself, other than just like focusing on the cancer and focusing on like just focusing internally, to be able to still focus on something else. I did find pretty quickly that my office chair was honestly, 100% the most comfortable place to sit. After the big surgeries, it was easy to get in and out of the chair rather than, having somebody help me down into the couch or help me up out of the couch or anything. So it was easy to sit at my chair and do some stuff and take my mind off of everything that was going on and maybe how crappy I might be feeling. And that's not to say there weren't a lot of naps on the couch, during chemo, because it really does, zap your energy. But I found that it really did help me, just to be able to sit at my desk and feel a little bit of normalcy and do some of the stuff that I normally do.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So it's so easy to get wrapped up in the emotion, and it was certainly emotional when I found out about it, because Ginny called me right away, and it's like we didn't have a chance to just go into the office and have them tell us the results. She already knew. And that when a husband hears about his wife having diagnosed with the big C, there's all kinds of emotions that happen instantaneously. And so what I did immediately I reached out to Jane Albright, and she got on the phone with me and she talked me through it. I had to talk through it so that I could process, because immediately as the husband, I'm going to be the rock. Immediately we think, okay, I'm going to be the rock. I'm going to show her that I'm going to be strong, because if she needs to lean on me, well, then she can lean on me, and I'm going to be worthy of leaning on, because I'm going to help her get through this. All the man stuff that goes on. And but Jane really helped me process it and understand it. And then I talked to Andy Albright, and he, really helped me understand my role as the provider for my family, as well as the husband to a wife that has cancer. I called them immediately, and that was one of the most important things that I did, was get my mind right before, we stepped into this journey. And that's the way I looked at it. Everything from shaving my head when her hair started falling out, and shaving her head, because it was so hard, but she convinced me to do it, all these things. And I look back at all those memories, honey, and it's made us stronger in so many ways, spiritually, in our marriage, with our children. I mean, I look back, and of course we wish it wouldn't have happened, but because we went through it, there's so many fruits that came out of it, I think. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. It was one of the hardest things to do, was to tell the kids, but they really rose to the occasion. And, with Zoe just completely dropping everything that she was doing in New York and coming home. It was a huge help. And I do want to share one thing that I think was a really, really important lesson that I learned during the process. And that was, for so many of us, I know I'm not just speaking for myself. I know there's a lot of people who just feel like they need to be independent and they need to not depend on other people and not ask for help. It's so hard for so many of us to ask for help or to let somebody else help. So here's what I learned. First thing I learned was, after a big surgery, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. They're telling you not to lift or not to reach or not to do whatever for a reason. So, you find out pretty quickly, oh, yeah, I really shouldn't have done that because, now I'm really hurting. But I also found that you really, it's not just about being dependent or being vulnerable when you ask somebody to help or that you let somebody to help. You're allowing them to be a blessing. And if you don't ask for help and if you don't allow someone to be there for you or to provide help or to provide a meal or whatever, you're really just robbing them of the opportunity to be a blessing, to the opportunity to receive those graces that you receive by helping other people.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and Andy definitely teaches that, it's the grace that goes both ways. The last thing I want to mention is praise the Lord that Andy showed me this business, that I got into it to build an income that wasn't totally dependent on me, because the Leventovich team was still rocking, the Connors team was rocking, our base shop was rocking. In fact, when I look at our growth, we actually grew through her cancer, which is crazy. But our team is still rocking, and they all came together when they found out that we were going through this, that they stepped up.
Yeah,
and
sure.
It was something I'll be forever grateful. So we built the business before we needed it. In other words, we had insurance on our income because we built the dadgum business. You know what I'm saying? And so some of y'all are thinking, oh, well, I'll wait to build a business, and then once I get good at selling and stuff. It's like, dude, man, you are assuming that you have time. The other thing we did is we bought a cancer policy 12 years prior. Why? Well, because I'm an insurance agent. So I bought a cancer policy. Little did I know 12 years later that we would be activating that insurance policy. So we're in the business of insurance, gangs. We insured our income, insured against cancer, So anyway, thanks, sweetie. I love you, and you're my rock. And you're amazing going through that. You're a rock. You never really learn about your partner until you watch them go through that. And as hard as it is for you, you see what courage and strength she had. I'm like, wow, I married the right woman, man. Thank you, Lord. So thanks, sweetie. Appreciate you.
Right. Love you.
All right, man. Well, we had some fun this last weekend. We did some dove hunting. We reduced the population of certain fowl that was overrunning the Albright property. And I got rid of a lot of finches and other birds, too. I was shooting at anything that flew. So, I shot at an airliner because I thought maybe I could hit it, but no. But I want to introduce my buddy Jerry Burbage, good friend of mine, Jerry and Cassie. We've known each other through the years, and man, Jerry's got a story, so I want to unleash my buddy Jerry on you, man. Jerry Burbage.
What's going on, Alex? Hear me loud?
Hey, my man.
Oh, good. Yeah, Jerry and Cassie down here in Monk's Corner, South Carolina, which is right outside of Charleston. For those that don't know, thanks for sharing all that, Jenny. That's I knew part of it. You just never know all of it, and each just like when we go to the events, every time you go, you learn something new. So thank you for sharing all that. So for me, and I don't know, how far back you want me to go with it, but ever since you asked me, that's all I've been thinking about all week is, God, it's brought up so much stuff. It wasn't me personally, like Jenny, but it was, my parents. When we, life always lifes, right? It's done it before we got in this business. It did it when you had just a regular job. It did it. Life happens, okay? And when we have jobs, it never even occurs our mind to stop. It's like, well, they give me my 3 days. Well, back to work I go. You don't question it. We don't do anything. It's what they told us to do. So it's happened a lot before this, and it's happened during our career here, and as far as I know, it's gonna keep happening. My mom in 2020, well, actually 2015, she got diagnosed cancer the first time. And then she had a cancer policy as well. So that we had started. We didn't use it then. She got a surgery, got rid of it. They said, hey, doesn't come back, she's good. If it comes back, it's not going to be a good plan. Well, in September of 2020, it came back again. We started here in 2018. 2020, it reared its head again, and they said, hey, you're not going to make it 6 months. And we were like, geez, what do we do? So the first thing we did was that policy. So, we didn't, she tried one round of chemo, but the specific one she was going to have to do was a week long, take 3 weeks off. Then you go back in for a week, take 3 weeks off, back in for a week. And after the first round, she was just like, hey, sorry, boys, to me and my brother. She's like, I can't do this. We're like, okay. So we started planning, for the worst. We pulled that Mutual of Omaha cancer policy. And instead of having to, when she got down and sick, go to a nursing home or anything like that, we moved her right into her brother's house, which was down the street from our entire family, and just paid my aunt and him a little bit of money to take care of her out of that policy. That way we could go by and see her anytime we wanted. Well, turns out she was a fighter, just like the first time when they said she wouldn't make it. She made it a little bit over 2 years, and really didn't have a whole lot of decline until the last 2 weeks. So fast forward to September of 2022. Started going down pretty quickly. Well, we had already planned the whole week. So that Sunday, September 11th, we were doing a hotspot on that Sunday in Myrtle Beach with Adam Katz, and his whole team was coming from Wilmington. Our team was coming from Charleston. Albright was coming in. Jane was coming in. It's like, dang, what do we do? And Cassie's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, well, I already, I said I would be there. If she doesn't, so I made up a decision. I said, if she doesn't pass away before I leave to go to Myrtle Beach, I'm going. Oh, that was Sunday, and she didn't. So we went, we did the meeting, had a good time, came back home. The next morning, so Monday, I spent all day with her on Monday. Cassie was taking care of things around the house, she was running appointments right then so that I could go do that stuff and be with my mom. Well, the next morning, Tuesday morning, at 5:30, my mom passed away. Also that week, 2 days after that, we had already planned a meeting with our team in Tennessee. At that time, Caroline was living in Tennessee. also Adam Katz and Andy and all of them were going to, and it's like, dang, what do I do? Because you got one side you're going to hear, well, you don't need to go to anything. You need to stay home. You need to do this. You need to mope and whatever else. And I was like, I got to go. I can't sit around here. I got to go. I told Caroline and them I would be there. Which of course, if I wouldn't have, they were all telling me not to come, of course. But I wanted Adam and Andy's and those guys' respect, And I remember getting there, walked in, and the first thing that Adam Katz come running up to me and gave me a hug. And so we did that. Came back home the next morning. Planned all of her funeral and all that stuff. There was another key thing. I was in charge of it, so I planned it when I wanted it, because we had also promised one of our agents that if she did X amount of premium, we would take her to an Atlanta Braves game. Well, we had already bought tickets for the Braves game that Saturday. So we came home Friday, planned everything, got up Saturday morning, drove to Atlanta, took her to the Braves game, drove back home Sunday morning, did the funeral Sunday evening, and then, tried to get back to as much of normal as we could. Fast forward exactly 6 months to the day later, my dad goes in for a routine stent surgery and never comes out. Was just with him the day before. Never made it out. So in between that time, we had planned after my mom passed, we planned a Father's Day cruise. So Dad passes away in March, and we're supposed to go on this cruise in June for Father's Day and Cassie's birthday, which we ended up still going. Just me and Cassie. My stepmom didn't go. She needed to stay home and she just didn't feel like going. Well, while we're on that cruise, Cassie's granny, which is her rock that, she did everything with, took care of, fell and broke her hip or tailbone and started to become very sick. She ended up passing away, a few months after that as well. So within a 12-month period, there's my mom, my dad, and Cassie's granny, which was like a second mom to her. Because of this system, the people in it, Andy Riddle, Angela, Andy Jane, Terry Tia, you guys, we got so many messages from, I could name tons of people. Levitovich, Alex and Adam and Beth always, we talked to Tim and Nikki all the time. It was good to see him again this week also. But I don't know, man. It's just I didn't want to let myself down. I didn't want to let any of you guys down. After you asked me this the other day, I was like, I wonder what our business did during that time frame. We made like in that 12 months when all that happened, we made like $210,000, and 60 of it was in overrides. I was like, that's what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
And but a lot of that goes back to what you guys were talking about, where you built the relationships first. If we hadn't won trips, if we hadn't, set up front at the conventions, we wouldn't have met the people we met, and I remember going to my first one and seeing how, you and Jenny talk to each other on stage, how Andy and Jane on stage. And I was like, one day I want to be up there doing the same thing with my wife. And just, that's for me, man. I'm trying to get back what you guys have done long before us. And I just had to keep going. It was, like Jenny said, to get back in that office chair, it felt right. It felt good. And I had to keep moving, or, the devil get in your head.
That's right, man.
So,
well, what you were able to persevere. Here's what rings in my head, dude, is I'm thinking your mom was telling you, get your butt out there, Jerry.
absolutely.
Your daddy's saying, get your butt out there. I'm in a better place. You need to do what you do. That's certainly the hurt and pain, but I think what you did was you taught other people that your commitment's your commitment, your word is your word, that you still live your life through your perseverance. And man, it's a tremendous story, dude. I'm so happy that you were able to, share that with us. And man, y'all need to come to the event to get around Jerry, because man, when you're making that kind of money, even going in spite of all the tragedy and loss, you're doing something right. You're doing something right when you're able to honor your mother and your father and Cassie's grandmother by living your lives abundantly and helping other people do the same. So, dude, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, I'm going to bring on a person on our team, Sarah Seifert, who she and Pablo went through some stuff, and I know some of y'all heard this, but not everyone has. And so Sarah, man, thank you for being on the call and share with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex and Jenny, for having me on today. You both are some of my, amazing mentors directly, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So I appreciate you guys. So yeah, I think for those of y'all that were at conference, I think I shared like a little tidbit of my story, but just talking to some new people that are on here, just joining the business. My name is Sarah Seifert. I'm direct to Jake and Bray Seifert, part of the Leventovich organization, Alex and Jenny, out here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So let's see. So less than a year ago, my husband was rushed to the ICU in the middle of the night due to an unexplained pain in his leg. Tried to get some sleep, but basically I got a call about 3 hours later in the midst of dawn, just asking to bring the kids to the hospital. This happened less than a year ago. Asking to bring the kids to the hospital for Pablo was in critical condition. By the time I got there, the surgeons, they had him back in surgery, and it was explained to me that his body was in full septic shock due to necrotic fasciitis. They expressed that they would try to save his life, but really he had about a 6% chance of living due to the severity of the infection and the shock to his organs. About 15 surgeries later, the team of doctors, they had a serious talk with me. They expressed that they were really just like unsure if they could save Pablo's life. I know why I get emotional, but I'm sorry, guys. So the infection, it had spread so quickly, and it had demolished like his entire right leg. And at that point, they were unsure, like if it had spread to his chest. That was like their big worry, because at that point, it takes over the entire, organ system. But they said, listen, Sarah, we know that Pablo's a man of God, and he wanted to do whatever needed to be done to be here with you guys. So they completed a full hip articulation amputation There was nothing to be discussed. There was minutes. The decision had to be made within about 30 seconds. They expressed at that point, we didn't have much time to talk about it, but that he would be wheelchair bound for the rest of his life. And, of course, there's a lot of things at that moment that just kind of flashed over my eyes, right? 3 little boys at home, like our life's going to look a lot different, right? But at that point, I felt a sense of peace. I think I get emotional because it's just, again, kind of like Jerry was saying, it brings things up again when you talk about it. So, but I remember just looking down like at my phone, and I remember receiving a text message actually from Alex and Ginny. It was the prayer directly from St. Padre Pio about healing the body. And I just remember repeating that over and over, just pacing the hospital. God knew exactly what he was doing when he put me in this business. He knew exactly what he was doing when he put me with the mentors that I have. It's not a coincidence. He knew exactly what he was doing. So little did those doctors know that the Lord had this all planned out from the moment that Pablo was even a thought in his parents' eyes. This circumstance was out of my control. And I just remember like being in the hospital at UNMH and just, I remember closing my eyes and thinking, how is God calling me to respond to this circumstance? How do I want my kids to remember dealing with this storm? How do I want my friends to remember me dealing with this storm? How do I want my team to remember me dealing with this storm? And most importantly, better yet, how do I want Jesus to remember how I dealt with this storm? So I couldn't control what was happening, obviously, but I could control how I dealt with the circumstance. I had 2 options at that point, Alex. It was, all right, you have 2 directions. There's not much gray in between. You either wallow and wail, or you embrace resiliency and I rise. So in that moment, it was time to rise up. I had to take control. I had 3 little kids at home. Pablo obviously wasn't working, right? He was in a coma, but I was the person. We lost his income. We lost all of that. So at that point, I went from doing this fun insurance thing on the side and insurance money, at that point, it was more than fun money. At that point, I had already left dental hygiene, so I saw the vision. The vision was a lot bigger, but it was time to rise up and just kind of take more control of my business. We stayed in the ICU for about 3 months. I never left Pablo's side. I slept in a recliner for 3 months. Barely showered. I think Jake and Ray saw me at my best. Bringing me food and just, totally there emotionally and for support. But all the bright lights and, the sirens going off. And of course, in the midst of everything, Pablo being in and out. So I read a lot in that time. I remember, starting Bible in the Year by Father Mike. I prayed the rosary daily. Stayed connected on team calls. I didn't love that I had to be like a little blank square. I didn't have my camera on half the time, but I was connected. I could control that. I checked in on the team, kind of like Ginny was saying, like it gave me a sense of normalcy outside this little room that I was staying in. But the main thing is, when things got really, really, really cloudy, Jake and Ray and Joseph Dukes and Mike and Noel, you and me, Ginny, like, I don't want to say names because the entire team, the entire organization stepped up. And I'll be forever, ever grateful for that. I like to think it was like a call to action. I had no idea what you guys were doing in the background, but you guys were doing something. And the business just kind of stayed. And I know that wasn't just like a magical thing that happened. So But at that point, Alex, I didn't know how long I was going to be there. 3 months in, I was like, it was the last quarter of the year. I didn't really know what that looked like. But that's when light bulbs started popping off. And I remember me and Jake and Bray, we were having the conversation about, I felt like at the beginning, maybe it was different looking back. Like they didn't want to talk about it. Like, we got it. Like we're taking control. But in my head, I'm like, I want to talk about the business. I want to talk about what's going on. But I just, I'm like, what can I do in this hospital? I know I'm not leaving the hospital. My husband is not well. Right. But I knew, like for those of you that know, I'm a face-to-face kind of girl. I run business one day a week, and I'm really efficient when I'm in the field, but I do that face-to-face. I love like eating tamales with my clients and having all the Cokes that I shouldn't be drinking and writing some insurance. But I was like, all right, well, I know I don't want to do virtual sales, but I can call my current clients. I can sell some supplemental stuff. I started selling policies to people in the waiting room. I amped up my recruiting. So I was like, all right, thank God I have a business. Thank God I have passive income. Thank God I'm not stressed beyond belief to be out there in front of families. But I amped up my recruiting. Sherry Teal, she's one of the top rookies here in the U.S. right now. She didn't know it at the moment, but we spent a good chunk of time building a relationship. I just remember pacing up and down the hallways, talking to Sherry about the business, talking about what it could do for her. All the things. She had no idea. I didn't tell her really about my story until she started hitting 20K months. And I was like, yeah. And I said, yeah, my husband Pablo. We started kind of opening up that. She said, why didn't you tell me? I said, you wouldn't reach out to me if I told you. If I told you I was in the hospital, I don't think, and maybe she would looking back, but, I'm like, it wasn't about me at that point. So you see, Pablo came out of the fight alive. Pablo came out of the fight with battle wounds. He came out with an amputation. And now we're learning a whole new way of life. I have nothing to complain about. I have nothing to complain about. I owe it to God. He got us through this. And now more than ever, I feel like there's a spotlight on us. Like, what are you going to do? What are you doing? So I feel for me personally, like there's a lot of good pressure to just like, all right, so you got us through this storm. Now, what am I going to do to witness to people? What am I going to do to bring light into people's homes? What am I going to do? So I can control the quality of time I spend with my children. I can control putting God first. I can control feeling exhausted internally, but just remembering my exhaust does not compare to many. I can control the people that I hang out with. I can control the size of my business. I can control the amount of families I serve. I can control investing in my business. I can control picking up the phone and dialing to set appointments. I can control going to my appointments. So there's many things that I can control. So my piece of advice for anyone that's going through something or going into something is control what you can control and free yourself of worry from the other things. This is not going to be the last storm that I go through. Okay. Our purpose on life is to overcome these storms. Preparation. I know we were talking about that yesterday, when you're on Duke's call, like preparation is key. And trusting that suffering, it's crucial for salvation. So rejoice always, pray without ceasing, and in all circumstances, be grateful.
Amen. Wow, Sarah, more goosebumps, Holy Spirit goosebumps. You have inspired so many by your story and your witness. And like I said on Mr. Duke's call yesterday, look at your scars with love, because those scars are what made you who you are today. Those scars are what drew you closer to the Lord, that your dependence is always on Him. And that's why you can look at those scars with love. So appreciate you. Thank you so much for sharing, Sarah, and thank you for being on the call. And can't wait to see the great things that you and Pablo are going to do. So God bless, man. All right, I'm going to bring on my buddies Tim and Nikki, who are going through stuff right now, but man, they keep the hammer down, they keep their focus, and we got a chance to spend time this weekend depopulating the fowl population on the Albright ranch. And but I want to bring them on. They're really good friends of ours, and so I'm just going to let you unleash, man. Tim and Nikki, thank you for being on.
Alex, thanks for having us. For those of you that don't know us, we're Tim and Nikki Long from Savannah, Georgia, and we've been with the business for about a little over 6 years. And beginning of the year, we got some news that we didn't want to hear, didn't we?
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. We appreciate the opportunity to share. So December of last year, we're always looking at our budget and finances, and I told Tim, I'm like, I kind of joke, like, the Mary Kay ladies have all the makeup. Well, we have all the insurance, like all of it. And so looking at the budget, I'm like, we could probably buy another house with the amount of insurance premiums we have. Let's consider cutting back. And so we first looked at our cancer policies, and I had a couple, Tim had one, we had some critical illness policies, and we're like, there is 0 cancer in my family, none in Tim's. Those are going to be the first to go in January. So
That was December.
That was December, but in January, we're probably going to cut those. January 2nd, I had a routine mammogram, and this is so God too, because I always go in October. Every year I go in October. For whatever reason, I was late and couldn't get in until January. So January 2nd, went in first thing in the morning. And then shortly after I got home, I got a call back. Hey, you need to come back in. I'm like, okay, this is standard. I've had these a couple times where I've had to go back. Well, they did a biopsy this time. And then January 4th, diagnosed with breast cancer. So praise God, we had not gotten rid of any of our policies. It was just huge.
Yeah. So the next, really since January 2nd, when we had pretty good idea that she was going to be diagnosed with breast cancer, really our focus narrowed, and it became, especially for me, doing most of the work business-wise for us, it became, you know what, I'm going to focus on the family. I'm going to focus on Nikki, and then letting, like you said, letting the kids know what, about this diagnosis and how difficult that is. And so really things stopped for us business-wise and stuff. We don't have our story isn't where, hey, we kept chugging along, those first even couple months. It really was difficult for us. We ended up, all of Nikki's treatment was at the Mayo Clinic down in Jacksonville. So it was about 2.5 hour drive each way. So we had multiple appointments down there, back and forth. And then your first surgery was February 19th. Right?
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. Of course, with a diagnosis, you really don't know. I thought breast cancer was breast cancer. I had no idea there's a lot of kinds and different diagnoses for all of them and treatments and everything. So it's been a learning curve, but I had one prayer to God. I just had a peace. I wasn't stressed about the cancer. I knew that He would take care of that. It was more the pain of surgeries and things like that. But I said, please just let it be after our youngest birthday, because his birthday was coming up on February 18th. And it seemed like it wasn't going to be until maybe March or something a long ways away. And we got a phone call. It was scheduled last minute because someone else canceled for the 19th. So exactly like the day after. So it can't get much closer than just wait till after Max's birthday. But one of the things that's interesting is even since cancer, I've talked to so many people about everybody should have a cancer policy. I mean, if there was two people who the odds were greatest of not getting cancer, we don't have any anywhere in our families. And what I hear a lot is, no, we've got great health insurance. Well, we have the best health insurance. I mean, we have military. It's great. It covers everything. So our medical expenses really weren't huge. But what you don't think about is all the time that Tim spent not working or traveling, or it's a lot financially, just not working. Forget everything else. I mean, medically, we have some bills, but so it just ended up being a huge blessing having those.
For sure. And just the financial security, I feel like the weight is on my shoulders to carry our family financially. And so when something like this happens, a couple things. One, we have a business that we can set the hours. We can have the flexibility that we need to. Sometimes that can be a detriment, but at the same time, it allows us to go to every doctor's appointment, be able to travel to find better doctors and so forth. And so, you can't get that with a job, right? I would have been fired the first couple weeks probably because I wouldn't have shown up. And so I'm super thankful for that. And like Nikki said, having some cancer policies, why would we have them? Well, because it's a high chance that we all could get cancer, right? And so everybody needs to have them. And also not just with cancer policies, we also had a IUL that has critical injury, critical illness. Thank you. And chronic illness, all the living benefits. So we were able to work with National Life Group as well, and they were able to help financially from the policy that Nikki had. So, and then for me, I was like, hey, as soon as things settled down, I had 50,000. I went and got another 50,000. Why? Because I saw how valuable that was to have in place, and just to another layer of protection for our family. And so with our business, as we got things going a little bit, I really didn't work January and February, other than clients that reached out and so forth. And so we started sharing our story with our current clients. And that's really who we've been servicing for the last year or so as our current clients. And so they know who we are because we put our picture out. We put birthday videos out and stuff together. So it's not Tim Long, it's Tim and Nikki Long with everything that we do. And so our clients feel like they know us. And so that relationship was important. And so not only did we get a lot of grace with our clients if they needed something, if I didn't get back to them right away, then they understood. And that was really, really helpful just for my peace of mind, because I don't want to let them down, right? And I surely don't want to let my family down, so they're going to be first, but the business is important.
I'll jump into just business-wise, Diane, Jake, and Belle. I mean, everybody, like Jerry and Sarah were talking about, our insurance family really just, they were there. Nobody was giving us a hard time for not showing up to work. So we just are super thankful for everybody. And Jane, I got home from the hospital and had this huge bouquet of flowers, and Tim was like, I've never gotten you a bouquet of flowers, Aven. So just the support, and Jane had to yank not my chain a couple times, just with, you can kind of get down when you're down so long. And so that was great to have that support too.
So we got things ramped up. We had earned the Alaska trip last year. And so I looked at where we were come April, May. I'm like, man, we really need to ramp some things up, or I need to business-wise. And so I couldn't do it by myself. So Jake and Belle Diane, Fitz, they were all so supportive of ways to help implement things, how to get moving faster, how to put a boot in my butt when I needed a boot in my butt. And we got to rely on the people that care, the people that are successful in this business, because like everybody else has said, this is not the first storm that we've weathered, and it's definitely not going to be the last one. It may be the hardest, it may not. Who knows what God has in store for us. But a couple things that I put in place to help was, sending messages to our clients, kind of what the situation was. We also had somebody come in and help with setting appointments, because I found that, hey, if my calendar is not full, then I'm not going to be focused on work. I'm going to be focused on Nikki and the kids and so forth. And so we got my calendar full, and we left June 19th or June 20th, I think, for Alaska. And in the first 19 days of the month, I wrote over $50,000 in premium because I had to, right? And so that's more than I've ever written before with no turmoil going on. And so it just showed me, for one, that I can do it, but also having somebody set appointments for me, that's something I need. Maybe not everybody has the luxury of that. That's fine. We didn't either early on in the business, but we did now. And so that allowed me to, again, just really focus, but also somebody else then to help convey our message to our clients if somebody might have been frustrated and so forth. And then I shared our story with every single client that I talked to, every single one. I was not afraid to do that because I wanted them to see how important covering your family is. And so they all I talked to every one of them about having a cancer policy and how important it is for their family to have critical illness, to have something to cover them, despite they may not think they need it because they have great insurance, like Nikki said, or no cancer in their family. Well, guess what? Check, and here we are. And so I've sold, I don't even know, I wanted to tally it up beforehand, but the number of cancer policies is probably 50 to 70 cancer policies this year, maybe more. And so I love the fact that our story can be, amplified the way we were protected to help protect others as well. So, yeah, and then we just, God was a big part of what we've been through. Nikki just had another surgery 6 weeks ago, and for her reconstruction stuff. So we everything slowed down again. But we've always seen how faithful God has been to us, and how he just continues to bless through the process. And I can't imagine being anywhere else doing anything else, because we wouldn't have what we have here as a family and the flexibility.
And so there's no cliffhangers. Cancer-free, that, right after the first surgery, they called, within a few days and said it hadn't spread. So I feel like really I'm one of the lucky ones. Wasn't going to benefit from chemo. The doctors have suggested a prophylactic treatment. I chose not to do that, but really, just surgery's been the only major issue.
And one thing that we've learned, a lesson learned here, is just on that side of things, is be your own advocate, right? You don't have to do what the doctors are telling you. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing, because it may not be best for you. It may be the exact thing that you need, but absolutely be your own advocate for your health, for your family, and then for your business as well. So.
Wow. Well, you guys are also a tremendous inspiration to everyone in the Alliance, and I appreciate you sharing your story, and can't wait to see you guys in a few weeks, man. And I'm really, and what more can I say, right? You guys have said it. Y'all have said it on this call, man. So I appreciate you being on here, Tim and Nikki, and we just keep fighting the fight. What's interesting is I'm sure, all your combat experience and fighting and being a war fighter, it's a different kind of combat here, right? When you get back into life here with the family, but it's no different, right? You have to rely on your people around you, your support, because you can't do it by yourself, and your faith, has sustained you, obviously, and you have sustained each other. So, anyone ever wants to look at a model marriage, look at people who have gone through the war with each other. You're your own foxhole buddies, and I see when I see you guys at events and stuff. I mean, definitely see that you guys are together, and I appreciate that when you go through what you've gone through, what we've gone through, what everyone's gone through here. Can't do it alone, man. You cannot do it alone. So, man, thank you for sharing. Appreciate y'all. Thanks. Well, gang, what more can be said, right? I think what we've shown you are models of alliance. It's almost weird to say agents because you're more than agents. You're the team, right? The team that, we don't look at anyone on the alliance. They're all part of the team. Whether you're producing, building a business, whatever, you are walking the same journey we're walking on. I have a 24-year head start, but I'm following Andy Albright, and he's already walked through the minefield. We've all walked through the minefield in so many ways, and when it comes to dealing with adversity in your life, you've seen that these people have walked through the minefield, and all you have to do is be inspired and to understand and know where your strength comes from. Right? Perseverance. We're talking about the virtue of perseverance is really what this theme is really all about, and how to embrace failure. You think that, when you fail, it's not a failure. It is an opportunity to learn how tough you are. It's an opportunity to learn how you can rely on God and his son Jesus, because he's the first option, not the last option, to the power of prayer and faith. And it's clear that that's an undercurring thread here that binds all of us together. We can't do it alone. We do it as a team. We do it as a family. And it's, sometimes you hear that terminology, oh, we're a family. Man, we are a family because families support each other. In fact, we probably do more than your family does for you in certain cases, because they're not going to be there for you. Whenever you're in trouble, your upline is going to come to help. But we don't know unless you reach up. We don't know unless you create relationships with us. The responsibility typically is for the team to create relationships with their upline leaders, right? It's that relationship that you've heard about. Relationships are what makes it happen. Relationship with Andy and Jane for us in so many ways of support, love, and then the kick in the butt, like Tim said. Sometimes you need that kick in the butt. Sometimes you need the reminder that, hey, stop it or we're going to bury you in a box, right? Stop it. Let's move forward, right? And let's move forward. And, when you can cry with your family, with your team, and when you can laugh with them, this is how we build our lives together. This is how we stay with the family that we have been placed with. What cracks me up is people will leave this family for a 5% increase in commission because they think it's going to be better out there. And then when they encounter situations that they have to endure, they forget that they just left a family that would have supported them, would have loved them through it, and would have edified them and uplifted them, both in prayer, in work, in the things that we can do to help them, like what Tim's upline did to help him keep going with his business. Hey, it's resourcefulness. When you can reach up to the people that have the resources, man, we are going to do what we need to do to help you because you've maintained your loyalty. You're coming to events. You're part of the team. You're part of the family. And there's nothing we wouldn't do for you, right? Nothing we wouldn't do. Why? Because there's nothing our Father in heaven wouldn't do for us. And we use that as our model. When has the Lord ever left you? He's never left you. It's us leaving him. Galatians 6:9, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we'll reap a harvest if we do not give up. Philippians 4:13, I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength. 2 Timothy 1:7, For God did not give us a spirit of timidity, but a spirit of power, of love, and self-discipline. And finally, James 1:12. Blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, because when he has stood the test, he'll receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. You've seen people on this call, and we're no better than you. We are right with you. We're right beside you. But most importantly, man, God's got you in the palm of his hand. He knows every hair on your head. He loves you enough to give you his son. So you are worthy. You are worthy. When the enemy accuses you of being not worthy, that's the enemy talking. You are worthy. So thank you all for being on this call. I appreciate, love you all. And man, God bless. God bless. Take care.